Good luck, and I'll speak to you afterwards.
Thanks, lovely.
Thank you.
Hello, got some faces there we recognise. Howard Field, good afternoon. Wallace, hi. Michael, hi, how are you? Joanne, good to see you. Got some other people coming in. Good.
Hillary, either you've got a doppelganger, or
I was going to say.
yeah, a doppelganger with a beard as well. So you know.
Oh, so I have. Wallace has come up as Hillary Cook. How funny. Hi, so we've got some people there. Hi, Julia. Nice to see you. Alex.
It's ever so slightly weird, isn't it?
It is very
I
sexy.
can confirm to the audience that I'm not Hillary Cook. That's strange.
We'll just give it a couple of minutes for some other people to come in. We are recording this, so if that's okay with everybody. And it'll be available on YouTube. Afterwards. Okay, so I think we're on time, aren't we? It's 3 o'clock now, so let's start. So welcome everybody. On behalf of Master and Holders, I'm Hillary Cook from Merlin Consultancy, and we've had this afternoon in the planning for a long time. So I'd like to introduce both Marcus Whedon from Milestone Recruitment and also Kathy Dyball from Caterer.com, who have kindly given up their time to give us the benefit of their wisdom and professional experience in terms of job seeking. So I think questions, yes, we'd like you to ask us questions as we go through. So open up the chat box and please ask us questions in the chat, and we'd love to hear from you as we go through. So anything that you want to know or need to know, we've got the experts here, so please ask away. So Kathy, can I start with you? Because before I spoke to you in the summer, I always thought that Caterer.com was to do with the caterer and like the back pages of the magazine first printed, but it's not, is it? It's completely different. So please will you tell us a little bit about Caterer.com to begin with?
Yeah, I will, with pleasure. Thank you. Hi everyone, good to see you today. So my name's Kathy Dyball. I'm head of marketing for Caterer.com, and as Hillary rightly says, we're not part of the Caterer. We are a separate business. It is confusing because we did used to be part of, indeed we're born from Caterer and Hotel Keeper. Those of you who were in my sort of generation and beyond will remember that name. And then we launched Caterer.com as digital recruitment became more popular. And then over the years, we separated as 2 separate businesses. So probably the best way to think about it is they do all the news and the incredible insight there, and we're about jobs, but we are separate businesses. Okay. So yeah, so Caterer.com is, if you've used it to hire anyone or you've used it to find a job, we are the largest hospitality job board for the UK. That's the way to think about us.
Good, thank you very much. And Marcus, can I ask you to introduce yourself as well, so people know who you are and what you do, what you bring to this party?
Hi everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Marcus from Milestone Recruitment. I specialise in restaurant recruitment and have been doing so with my company for the last 3 years, but have worked operationally as well for many years with restaurants, hotels and pubs.
Thank you. So there's lots of initiatives going on at the moment to help people in hospitality find jobs, and there's CareerScope, which is the combination of organisations coming together, so Springboard and Institute of Hospitality, and there's also the Food Circle, which is put together for contract catering. And I think what's been launched this week, which is really exciting, is the Career Advice Hub from Caterer.com. So Kathy, please will you tell us about the Career Advice Hub?
Absolutely. Okay. So yes, there are many offerings in the market to help job seekers, to help hospitality people, and CareerScope is obviously extremely important and central to that. And it's not to add another one to the list, this is a bridge, but very early on, Caterer.com has felt a responsibility to help hospitality people to find the jobs that are right for them, to find work if they need it. because we've grown with the growth of the sector. Our candidates databases, millions of hospitality candidates are in our database. So, you know, back in March when all of this hit, we felt a very deep sense of needing to do whatever we could to assist. So back in March, we turned the site into a redeployment hub, which meant that there were jobs on there for hospitality people in hospitality, but also other roles in other sectors. And that still remains for the moment, that does still remain. But now we've launched our career advice hub to help job seekers within hospitality at any level to tool up, if you like, to find work that is right for them. Whether that be building confidence, whether that be updating their CV, whether that be looking after their well-being. You know, we've analysed every stage of the job seeker journey, the journey you go on, whether you're thinking of moving, have lost your job, or right round to getting a job and beyond. And we've created content around that. So I'd like to show everybody, if that's okay.
Please do.
I will.
Because this is very new, isn't it?
I'm going to use the term, you know, one of this year's favourite terms. I'm going to share my screen. And hopefully you'll be able to see. Can you see caterer.com there?
Yeah, got it, yeah.
Okay, so this is the homepage of caterer.com where you would search for jobs normally. So there's the search function, recommended jobs underneath. And yes, there are actually at least 2,000 hospitality jobs on there at the moment, and we had got up to about 5,000, which was pretty good. Doesn't compare to the previous 20,000 we used to have, but that's the market, of course. But when you hit this hub, the homepage here, you'll see career advice. So if I take you into that, this is now the career advice hub. So what we've done is we've created written content. These are all here job descriptions, for example, but also video, looking at the most asked job seeker questions. And we know this from research within Google. We know what people are searching for. So we wanted to answer those questions as in an accessible and positive and empowering way as possible. So what happened was I got together with Marcus and also Kieran at Experience 101, and we started reaching out to our networks within hospitality to say, look, hey, we're creating this hub. Would you like to share freely of your advice and guidance to help hospitality people? And the way we really want to do this is in video, because video is how people are digesting content mainly now, and we want it to be quick, easy to access, easy to understand, and above all, empowering and enabling.
Yeah.
That's the tone. So you'll see that we've compartmentalized the content into various sections. So applying for a job, CV advice, cover letters and interviews, and then career advice, various other pockets here, including job descriptions and what is the right job for me, and life at work, which includes well-being, rights at work. And then as an example, if we come into redundancy here, which is obviously an important topic, there's Marcus's job seeker guide. It's a downloadable PDF with a sort of end-to-end guide of all his expertise in there as a tip sheet for you. I'm sure Marcus will talk a little bit about that later.
Mm-hmm.
There, and a couple of interviews here, videos about redundancy. And of course, there's Hillary. So if I were to play one of these, just I'm not going to make you watch the whole thing, but you'll see that there's an intro there. Here is the video, and then we can just play. Okay. I'm going to stop that now.
As much as we enjoyed making it.
Sorry, Hillary. Right. But I wanted to give you a sense of the tone. Okay, so that gives you a sense of the tone. And I'm not going to go through all of this. There's masses of information in here. Some of it is video, some of it is written content, and we're building it all the time. But if I tell you that we've had, Steve Rocky has done some videos with us. We've had Honest Burgers. We've had Q Green Hotels. We've had Yanni from the University of Brighton. Purple Cubed are involved. There's a lot of well-being with things like Now Pause and Shane Cook. So there's a good range of something for everyone.
Yeah.
So whether you work in 5-star hotel environment or whether you work in a bar environment, there should be something in there to appeal to you, to help you with your job seeking journey. So that's a quick nip round the hub. I'm going to, if you don't mind, I'm going to stop sharing now, if I can work out how to do it. And then if there's any questions on the hub at any point during the session, of course, just ask me.
Thank you.
I think you'd stopped me sharing, hadn't you?
Yeah, we can see that.
Can you?
Yeah.
Am I back to normal now?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine. All right, lovely.
In your glorious.
In my own way. Yeah. So I just wanted to finish off really by just going to say one last sentence, and then we'll obviously pass it over to Marcus. But this is an evolving piece of work, which won't be just for now. We are definitely partnered with CareerScope on this work, and I'm in touch with them to see how can we bridge the content.
Yes.
Equally, Food Service Circle, we're connected with them as well.
Yeah.
So this is not an isolated either or. This is meant to be a collaborative piece, and it will continue to grow and build. And you know, obviously today is a bad day of news for the sector, but we genuinely believe that over time, months into years, this will become a hub that showcases the sector as the amazing place it is and brings people in to work with us. That's its intention. So it's there for you to use.
Brilliant, thanks, Kathy. I think that's one thing that's come out of the kind of disaster that we've lived through is the increased amount of collaboration that there is between people and organisations. I think that's really encouraging and cheering. We're more joined up and aligned, I think, now than we've ever been as an industry, and that's a great thing. I really celebrate that.
Most definitely.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much. So Marcus, please will you tell us a little bit about the Job Seeker Guide and what you think are the key important things to start with?
Yeah, I mean, the Job Seeker Guide, I started building it because of all the conversations I was having with everybody. My work kind of dried up, so I started helping people. And everyone was after different kinds of advice. And it wasn't until I started writing a few bits and bobs down, I thought, you know, there's a lot more information here that can be provided to people. So it really does start at the basics of CVs, what to do, what not to do, going to find out where you can actually apply for jobs, what support you can get from different charities, or even the support you can get through your network, the kind of questions that you're possibly going to get asked now in interviews, and what questions you should possibly be asking in interviews. And it's really just a guide for something like 13 pages. Which just gives you a short snapshot of what to expect and what you could possibly be doing a little bit better than what you're doing already. So if you're frustrated not getting anywhere in an interview or even getting to an interview, what you could possibly do that's a little bit different, what you may not have thought of before, that could potentially help you get an interview or get a job.
Thank you. So what advice would you give on CV creation, first of all? What are the sort of key things that we need to get right in a CV?
For me, my own opinion, keep it simple. You know, I think I was having a conversation with someone today on WhatsApp about CVs and the length of them. I'm a great believer in having a 2-page CV, but I guess there are some rules which say, you know, if you haven't got much experience, you're going to be looking at a 1-page CV, or if you're a senior executive, you're probably going to have a 3 or 4, possibly 5-page CV. But I think a general rule of thumb is to have a 2-page CV where the font's at a decent size, it's nicely broken down into bullet points, you've got a personal profile at the top, then you talk through your duties, making sure you've got your exact dates on there, the positions and wherever you've worked. Followed by your qualifications, and then a short snapshot of, you know, what you possibly get up to in your spare time.
Thank you. So you're helping a lot of people. I see you on LinkedIn and everywhere. You are really generous with giving your time away for.
Thank you.
To help people. So what are some of the stories, success stories that you can share with us? What really works for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting because over the last 3 days, as we were discussing earlier, I had 3 messages from people that I've helped, and all three now, I've just had another message from one person, have actually received jobs. And they've gone from not being able to get an interview, then speaking to me. And I'm not just saying that it is me that's getting the job, because all the hard work is actually down to them. But they're listening to the information being provided, and they're taking on board the information that's been given to them. And then they come back with a message the other day. One lady had 7 interviews. She got 2 job offers. Another gentleman, he had 3 or 4 different offers put on the table this morning, and he's accepted the job today. It doesn't start till January, but at least he knows he has a job and he can sort of rest easy through Christmas. And another gentleman just got a job as a general manager after speaking to me. He had about 2 or 3 interviews as well. And you know, it's interesting that using the resources around you that you wouldn't normally necessarily think of using can have a massive effect on your not just mental health, but your positivity, your happiness. And then you see all the results from just doing the slight changes, you know, whether it's a CV or the way that you're applying for jobs. You know, some people are applying for thousands of jobs. Maybe 1,000 is a bit of an exaggeration, 100, let's say 100.
Yeah.
But you turn around and you say, look, just focus on 2 or 3 jobs. And do your research, take your time, and really sort of tailor your CV for the job, or the cover letter or email that you send through to them. You know, and these things are having an effect.
So is it important to have a more targeted approach then, rather than a general approach to
I think so, but I think there's quite a lot of people out there that are probably scared to do that because they think they're minimizing their chances.
Yes.
So they will carry on doing this simple thing where they see a job and apply for it. And you can't blame them for doing that.
Yes, yes. So it's partly techniques and partly your mental state, isn't it? Of how it drives forward. What advice would you give to somebody who is struggling with a lot of rejections at the moment?
I did have one lady, probably about a couple of months ago, that was really suffering. And she sent me a really long email after I put the post up on LinkedIn, and she explained in detail about what was happening in her life and the fact that she couldn't get anywhere. So the first thing I did was pick up the phone and speak to her, just to help say that there's somebody out there supporting her. But we talked about lots of different things, about sort of stepping away from the computer and stop looking at, looking at jobs. You know, just take that minute away from thinking you're so desperate for a job, and just move away from it and refocus. And I think this technique really, really well. I've actually sent her an email yesterday, see how she's getting on. But the first initial reaction to all the advice that we gave her was that, you know, she was positive about things, and the positivity came from the fact that somebody actually picked up the phone to have a conversation with her. That was the first step.
Right.
You know, and you know, when you're getting hundreds and hundreds of applications, I know there's lots of companies out there that probably haven't got the facility or the ability to be able to do that. But just a simple phone call and speaking to somebody can lift them up like that. And it does give them positive, and that positivity then projects into their applications.
Yes, yes.
So I think that helps massively. But the advice I gave to her was to step away from the computer and let's sort of have a look at your CV, look at the way it's set up, and then sort of talk about your personal profile and address that as well, and think about that a little bit differently.
Yes, I think I give that advice as well to people that I'm helping, that you've got to treat looking for a job like a job, and then know when you're done, because otherwise there's no work-life balance, and sitting there in front of your computer doesn't increase your chances. It just wears you out. So I think it's that sort of management of energy and management of resources while we're job seeking. And also to use the network that we have, to use our friends, to use our colleagues, and not be afraid to reach out and say, I'm having a really tough day today, because tomorrow might be better, but today's tricky.
It's interesting because one of the posts I did put up on LinkedIn, you know, it got a massive response, and it wasn't intentional to have the massive response. And I probably had something like 200 or 300 people get in touch with me, asking for help. And I did my very best, and hopefully I did manage to get back to everybody in some shape or format. I spoke to as many people as I could, and I responded with either a CV template or advice of what they should be looking at. But just for them to reach out demonstrates that some people want to do it, and they feel the need to reach out to somebody. But it's not until somebody actually offers that help that people will reach out. I don't think that I'm not sure if they're ashamed to do that, or they just don't know how to do it.
Yes.
But I think it's a big piece in terms of being confident to be able to do that, and knowing the right people to actually approach.
Yes, yes. And there's lots of us out there that are giving help away for free if you just access us and ask.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely not the only person. I know there's lots of other recruiters similar to myself, and they're doing great work as well and helping people.
Yes.
Really are.
Yeah. So let's wind forward a little bit to an interview, because one of the questions that I had from Kathy, I know was a frequently asked question when I did the interviews with for the site, was about understanding and being able to express your strengths. That's always going to be a question that comes up, and it's really quite tricky to answer.
Yeah.
So
you asked me that question either.
Yeah, let's do a bit of a spin around the block, shall we?
But I think from what we discussed previously as well, I mean, to really understand what your strengths are is about, again, turning the computer off and sitting down and really thinking about them. Think about the times that you've had an appraisal. Think about times you've had conversations with your managers. Think about times when you've probably had some feedback from your staff about, well, this is what I really love about you and the way that you help me. And then just write down those skills on a piece of paper. I do an exercise with some general managers where I say, look, write down 5 to 7 skills, bullet point them, 1 or 2 words, and then do personality traits as well. And from that, you can build a personal profile for your CV. That's a nice, easy exercise. But whilst you're doing that, you're actually answering a question, because you're going over it so much and you're getting it in so much detail that when you get asked that question in an interview, you're actually able to resonate exactly what's on the CV. But maybe not exactly, but it'd be pretty close. And I think that's a really good exercise to do, to actually understand what your strengths are. But you need to get into a quiet place and really think about it. And a lot of people do make the mistake of just going straight in, writing stuff down. And there's nothing unique about it, because they kind of write the same things, like being trustworthy or honest or hardworking. They're very cliche.
Yes.
And that doesn't make your CV stand out, first of all. But then when you go into an interview and you're asked about your strengths, you don't want to be saying those kind of things. You want to be saying something that's very unique about what you are brilliant at, what makes you unique.
Yes, unique.
I've been using this word quite a lot through the summer, unique.
Yes, yes. And it is, because it's competitive out there, isn't it? There's a lot of applicants for each position. We need to be able to stand out.
Well, Kathy might be able to tell us exactly how many times it is, but I've been telling people it's probably in the region of 10 to 15 times the amount of people applying for jobs.
Right.
And that's the reason why you need to make your CV stand out and yourself stand out a lot more.
Yeah.
I can tell you that at its height, we were receiving 5 times the number of applications.
Okay,
so
I'm exaggerating that then.
as an average, but I think it depends where we've seen these examples of hundreds of applicants applying for jobs. Of course, that is true. It depends on the job. So as an average across all roles, we're receiving about 5 times. It has settled down, and I expect it will go back up again, because the site is a mirror for the activity of the market. When it's at that scale, job numbers and applications, available candidates, you can see it. It's not the whole market, Caterer.com, of course, but it's a good chunk of it. So it is highly competitive, but I wouldn't want to give the impression that it's as frightening as you might read in some of the media reports, because obviously, I do PR and you always go for the scariest statistics. So don't be put off by that. It's about, as Marcus is quite clearly indicating, it's how you position yourself that will give you the cut through.
Yeah, totally.
Cool, thank you. I know when I knew this question was going to come up in my interview, you see, with Kieran. So I didn't know myself how to answer it in terms of how would I find out my own strengths and skills. So I did quite a lot of Googling, and I was amazed at how helpful there is some out there and on the internet, tests for you to look at identifying your core skills and your strengths. And what I was finding was that was really helpful, because it was giving me extra words and vocabulary for different things that might be valued as being strengths that I wouldn't have really thought of. And I think it's something that maybe naturally not very good at, to go in and talk about our skills and strengths. It's something that's almost a bit embarrassing about putting yourself forward in that way, but we have to get over that, don't we?
Yeah, I think there's another element, and one of the reasons that we kind of collaborated and started this. And we can't automatically think of a job seeker being somebody that kind of has been in a job 1 or 2 years. Yes. And what about those people that have been in jobs for, let's say, 10, 15, 20 years? They've never had to write a CV before. Yes. I mean, they've probably never written a personal profile, and they probably have no idea how to write on a CV what those skills are. Yeah. So having a hub like this with all that information is very much so for them, as obviously as well as other people. But I kind of had in my mind that these people would be the people that would probably struggle quite a bit in terms of preparing a CV and knowing where to go and how to go about applying for jobs.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I noticed was happening early on, and I don't know, I don't have any data that if it's still happening, is that people were going to jobs and then being devalued because it was a big market for job seekers, that there was an element of needing to take a job that was either below my current grade or taking less pay because I'd be so grateful for a job. What are your thoughts about maintaining your kind of standards and your position in terms of how much you'd like to earn and what sort of job you want to go for?
I think at the end of the day, people need to do what they need to do.
Okay.
If they need to have a job and it's just there until they can find the right job for them, I don't see anything wrong with that, and I don't think it belittles or makes you look anything bad at all. So it's quite interesting. We talk about devaluing. So, for example, on LinkedIn, you have the green thing on your profile picture, and someone said to me, "This devalues you." And I said, well, how does it devalue you? Because you're actually marketing yourself as being available for work. So he said, no. So if someone saw that, then they would think, okay, we can pay you less money because you're desperate to find work.
Yeah.
So, from that point of view, no, I just think you need to do what you need to do. And I guess it's kind of the same as people going out applying for lots of jobs. They're going to do what they feel they need to do.
Yeah. I know on the career advice hub on the caterer.com hub, Kathy, you've got a deployment area, haven't you? So people who are looking for shorter jobs out of the industry, we hope you won't be gone for long, but there may be a reality that I have bills to pay and I have to take a job wherever there is one. Can you talk about the deployment area a little bit, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, in effect, it is caterer.com has become a repository this year for jobs in other sectors as well that might be suitable for transferable hospitality skills. They are not for everyone, and I want to say right now that most of the applications that go through caterer.com are going to the hospitality jobs. I mean, the vast majority, even though we are offering these roles, and that tells you something about how people see themselves in this sector. But because we have a sister site, Total Jobs, we're able to bring those jobs across, which may suit. So yeah, logistics jobs are one of the most popular at the moment. There are also care roles on there. There are customer service roles at all levels. So it was intended as a temporary solution when we launched it in March. This is before furlough is even a thing. So we didn't know what was happening at that point. We just decided to do it. It has remained on the site. I'll be honest, I want to turn it off. I want to switch that off soon. But we want to keep our people in hospitality. But the reality is at the moment with the roller coaster ride that we're still on, if people need work, as Marcus says, then we need to enable them to get that work for now, and then work with employers to welcome them back as soon as we can. That's what it's there for.
Yeah. I know some employers have sort of almost guaranteed that once things pick up, if you've worked for us before, we will take you back for sure. And then it's just time in terms of.
Yeah, I would say that one of our intentions is to keep in contact with those individuals. So we are in a good position to be able to do that. If you're still inside our database, we can still talk to you. Yeah. If you've left the unit of hospitality, you may work for an employer, but you be reachable?
Yeah.
You know, so it's the onus is on the employer to keep in touch with them, or for us to keep them in the fold. And I think that's very, very important for the long-term success of the sector, is to, we've got such a wealth of excellent talent, and you know, we want to keep that talent for hospitality, even if it has to leave for a while.
Yes, yeah, we certainly do. The people leaving the sector is something we want to try and avoid as much as possible. It's so important. We had a question in, which is a great question. Thank you, whoever's put that on the chat box. Question: how can we explain gaps in a CV during interviews?
Explain the gaps in the interviews or the CV?
Explain gaps in my CV during interviews.
I'd just be honest. I've always been a great believer in not lying on a CV, because you get caught out. You know, if you get in front of a really good interviewer, they certainly will find out things that you're possibly hiding. So I'm massively into just be honest. If you be honest, then that's going to hold you in a good weight within the company that you're in, or in front of the recruiter that you're with. I think if you start if you get asked a question and you don't give the information, that's obviously going to go against you in some way. Obviously, if it's something very personal and you don't want to talk about it, there's possibly a way around it. But in most cases, I'd say, yeah, be honest.
Yeah, I'd agree. And a gap is a gap. It's a thing, isn't it? It's fact. It's data.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I just had a general manager I've just put forward for a job. And he had a gap on his CV, and I said, let's just put it in the CV and explain it. You know, you save that question.
Yeah.
The interview.
Yeah.
Can I just add something to that, actually, which is that if there's a gap in your CV for whatever reason, explaining what it was and that you moved through it connects back to talking about your strengths. And like many people on this call, you know, I've been made redundant after 14 years I had a wonderful job in sales for 14 years. I was made redundant from that.
Yes.
There was a gap where I just pivoted myself to move into marketing and PR. And I've been in that for 14 years. That kind of gap in the middle was a change period for me as a person. And explaining that is part of what sells me on the next. So just to say, a gap is actually an opportunity. It's not something to cover over. It's something to point at in many ways.
Yeah, good. Thank you for that question. Question from Joanne Taylor Stagg. It's not anyone's fault that they've been made redundant, and it's actually not the person that's been made redundant. It's the job position which is redundant. It's not anyone's fault they've been made redundant. It's a situation, not the person. A gap is a gap, but it's about what you can do now. So that's a very sort of positive.
Yeah, it's like you say. At the end of the day, people are very understanding that you have been made redundant potentially. You know, and that is very, very unfortunate. But you know, when people are looking at recruiting people, that if you haven't been working since March, they'll understand. You know, it's possibly about what you've actually been doing since that time period to fill in that time, whether it's a job or you've been volunteering or something like that. How you've been, have you learned something or been creative and doing something? Have you got into gardening or have you started up exercise? And those are the kind of things as a recruiter I'd be really interested in finding out. And I know there's lots of other recruiters out there that will do exactly the same thing. They'll be very interested to see what you've actually been doing since March, if you have been redundant from that. Some people are lucky not to be redundant yet.
So should we have some good answers to that question? What did we do during lockdown, or what have we done during that gap? We need to have some.
Yeah, I think it is an area that I cover on my document. So it is, hopefully it's still fresh in your mind what you've actually been doing. So it shouldn't be a hard question to answer. But I think, everyone is different. Everyone would have done different things. Some people would have sat on their chair playing FIFA.
Yes.
For example, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just about what the person likes and what they do.
Yeah. So I think it's important to, someone else has just said, don't try and hide the gap, which is true, isn't it? If you're coming into this saying honesty is one of my strengths and skills, but I can't tell you what I was doing at that, then it's a little bit of a paradox. So yeah, just cover it and expand on what you've done during that gap to keep developing. And I think that's something that's changed. I think employers are much more, I don't know because I'm not one, but I'm guessing that employers are more flexible about gaps in CVs than they used to be. It used to be quite a stigma if there was a gap in your CV. But it's just a way of normal life now. It's a way of modern life and a way of the situation. That there may well be gaps in people.
Yeah, I think they're definitely a lot more empathetic towards people, a lot more understanding, especially regarding the situation. So, you know, they tend to interview people slightly differently, I think.
Okay. So, what advice could you give to somebody who's maybe on this call and feeling a bit low at the moment? Christmas is coming, there's going to be bills to pay, I've had a lot of rejections. How do I move myself out of that low point?
I suppose you go around to this happiness piece, don't you? Surround yourself by positive, happy people. I mean, I know there's going to be people that aren't going to be getting jobs this year. It's unfortunate. So what do you do instead to not get what I call job seeker depression? You know, it's really about finding ways to occupy your mind, like we've talked about, turn the computer off and look at go outside for a run or something. But there is the other element where if it's possible to be with people that do make you feel happy and give you positivity. I think that's one good exercise that you can do.
Yes, yeah. I was reading something a couple of weeks ago. There was a study done in the States. There was a large scale factory that laid a lot of people off who had been working there for a long time. And a lot of these were people who were not in a time in their careers where finding another job was going to be easy. And they experimented, one of the occupational psychologists experimented with these people and got them to write down how they were feeling and express how they were feeling about the situation. And the results were really quite startling because they did it for just 3 days. You don't have to keep it, and you don't even have to write it now. You could input it into voice recorder or something. It doesn't matter what the content is. It's the fact that you are confronting how you're feeling and being able to almost sort of get rid of it, externalize it. And the results for job seeking were quite amazing because the people who had done that were more successful in finding a job than the people who hadn't. Isn't that interesting? That's a study that's been replicated over and over again. Sort of not sitting on stuff, not internalizing, just being able to get it out there and deal with it, and then move on. That this is, and also not being your feeling. You may be feeling anxious or feeling rejected, but I am not rejected. I am not anxious. It's not me. It's just that it's a feeling. I found that quite an interesting piece of research.
If I just draw attention to the hub again, that's in the well-being section. We've got 3 interviews with Claudia Matura, who is excellent, of the And Happiness podcast. She's an L&D specialist, and she talks about the importance of happiness in the workplace, but also in job seeking. And exactly that point, Hilary, that you're responsible to a great extent for your own feelings of happiness. And that if you do manage to understand what that means for you, you will become more successful. And that sounds perhaps a bit woo-woo, but it absolutely isn't. In the way that she delivers it is very scientifically based. Also in that Wellbeing Hub, we've got 3 videos with Shane Cook from Jasper Wellbeing, and he talks about boundaries. He talks about healthy habits. He's basically saying, okay, these are the ways, the small steps you can take to stabilize yourself, enable your well-being, and move towards actually feeling fulfilled and confident. And it's, even if you don't feel that you need this right now, I honestly would advocate having a look at those videos because they're really quite empowering. And then finally, there's now Pause have just released some meditation for meetings recordings. So if you've got a video interview coming up and you're feeling a little bit discombobulated about it, you can listen to one of their very short 5-minute meditations specifically designed for calming you before an interview or a meeting. So it's all on there. It's really useful stuff, and I use it actually. I've used those resources. So
yes, I think there is something about being able to imagine yourself entering that interview space. And one of the things I talked about with Kieran in our video is in presentation skills. We have this process where you kind of go in with the audience or the group into getting 2 nods and a smile. that's a way of creating empathy. So even if you're in a group or doing a presentation, you might say something like completely inane, like, I'm glad to see you all found your way here today. I mean, obviously because they're sitting in front of you, but that if you nod, they'll nod. And I think we have a great opportunity at the beginning of a video to create that empathy out of not shaking hands, because we have to create that sort of initial impression with people in a different way. In the old, pre-COVID days or pre-coronavirus days, you walk in and shake hands and then your handshake would be judged and yada yada yada. But now we've got a great opportunity to get in there in the interview and make somebody smile, because it is weird not being able to shake hands. It is strange meeting people for the first time without any of the normal sort of salutations or routines and rituals, and we can actually make something of that would help to build rapport. So imagining yourself walking into that interview room and what you're going to say and how you're going to be is really important. I think that's great advice from those videos.
Yeah, technology is quite daunting, isn't it, for some people? So one of the things I always do when I'm talking to people is, as you can probably, everyone can tell, I'm always smiling. And so I always start off very, very chirpy, and then we start off with a very chirpy conversation, and it's automatically getting them to smile.
Yes.
And that replaces the handshake. And because you've got that really lovely greeting, it's warm, it's friendly, it's nice, and you make someone feel relaxed straight away. You probably get that in a normal interview anyway, but when it's on a computer or on your phone, it's very, very much different.
Yes. Yeah, so thinking about how we do that and how we get that across and how we there is good thinking.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at some questions. For people working in hospitality, this current situation is very unusual. Hospitality is all about people engaging the guests' needs, and this current situation is not helping at all. I guess it isn't, but in some ways it is. We've got an opportunity to make it something else. And maybe treating your interviewer like a customer, because you've got a whole menu of skills there to run through. You still need to engage your interviewer. I'm wondering if there's any specific questions out there from anyone who's job seeking at the moment and would like to ask Marcus or Kathy something really specific, maybe very direct about your own CV or your own experience. You might as well use us, we're here, we've got some expert advice. So if there are any direct questions about your own CV or your own job seeking experiences, please put them on the chat. We'll do our best to answer them. There's a question here about, is the gap you're in now, if you're not working or furloughed, the time to find new skills or update knowledge, and where's best to find resources for this? So if we were sort of upskilling or increasing our knowledge, what sort of resources are good to look for?
I've seen several companies offering free education. I can't remember exactly what they were, but even locally in the college that I have here in Harrow, they're offering free courses. It's just about, I guess finding out what you want to learn first of all, and then seeing if there's a platform out there that's doing something like that doesn't necessarily cost as much money as it normally would do. But I guess if you did a Google search on specifically what you potentially wanted to learn, whether that is something to enhance your personal life or enhance your sort of professional life, it's definitely a time to do that now while you're not working.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of really good free stuff out there. Even if you Google MOOC, massive online open community, under the MOOCs, there's a lot of university-based courses which are being offered for free. Future Learn, Coursera, all those sorts of sites. So if you Google free something, then there's always something to. The internet's a fabulous resource right now.
There's so much information there.
Isn't there?
To that point, actually, there's a couple of videos on the hub with Yanni from University of Brighton talking about upskilling. Now he's talking mainly about further education and the values of that in hospitality. Why would you, and how should you? But he does make the point that there is so much information out there. Choosing a course that's accredited, that is robust, is very important, and that you have to be careful what you use and what you pay for. So look at the reviews and so on. But also it kind of comes back to your skills. So when you've got that much choice, what do you choose to upskill on? So if you've managed to do your analysis of your skills In the first instance, you can then identify where your gaps or your, I hate to use the word weaknesses, areas for development.
I love that, areas for development.
Yeah.
I do that all the time.
Another positive way of responding to that question. So, then you can choose your courses and your training to suit those areas for development.
I don't buy into the strengths and weaknesses argument because they're contextual. My strengths are my biggest weaknesses sometimes, and my biggest weaknesses are my greatest strengths sometimes. I've got my back against a wall. I've got some lovely specific questions in here, Marcus, for you.
Okay.
One from a gentleman saying, how do I get my CV noticed? I've applied for lots of jobs, but until now, no response. That's right up your street.
One thing I will say, have a direct conversation with myself and we'll get that sorted. So yeah, it's probably something quite simple, and it's your CV is the key to everything, pretty much. And we've demonstrated that already through those 3 people that we mentioned earlier that were in a similar boat. They weren't getting the responses, they weren't getting interviews. We had a conversation, we talked about everything on the CV, what needed to be changed. And as much as they could be simple, it could be drastic changes, it's worth having a different CV. If the CV you haven't got at the moment is not working, it's not getting noticed, it's worth looking at, okay, what do I need to do different? And by having a conversation with somebody or doing some research and using the hub that we have, there could be answers there that could change that.
Brilliant. So I think this gentleman's CV might be on its way to you very
Absolutely
shortly.
fine. I do not mind to have a conversation.
Thank you. So I hope that's answered that one. So, and there's another one, which is, I'm a job seeker and unfortunately I recognise that I'm not strong in interviews. How can I improve that, and how can I approach with positivity?
Do you know what, there's an old story of mine where I wasn't very good at interviews once before as well, believe it or not. When I first started working in recruitment some 15 or so years ago, I'll say 15, it's probably a little bit shorter than that. I remember going out for about 5, possibly 7 interviews, and I wasn't getting anywhere either. And it just took somebody to give me some feedback. He sat me down and said, this is what you're like in an interview.
Right.
And no word of a lie, the next job I went for, I got the job because I actually had someone give me feedback and they demonstrated to me what I was doing, not necessarily incorrectly, but what I could possibly perfect and do a bit better. And I tell this story to everyone that is not having much luck, and it's all about just asking for feedback. If you haven't been getting anywhere with your interviews, most people will give you feedback if you actually are. Some people are very busy and they won't be able to do that. But even a little bit of feedback is going to help you. But if you're not getting feedback, I suppose that's when it becomes difficult, and it may be worth reaching out to some people, do a mock interview, and see what their thoughts are about your interviews and get them to be brutally honest with you. I don't have a problem being brutally honest because I think it's the best way to help people, and it works.
Yes. So is it in, I guess, practicing some of those questions, because if I think I'm not very good at something, this person saying I'm not strong in interviews, then you're almost getting in your own way, because it's a mindset saying I'm not good in interviews, therefore you won't be good in interviews, because you're almost creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. So, and I'm wondering whether ex-employers could help. Maybe your ex-employer who's sadly had to let you go from a job would help you to do a mock interview, because they know you and they could help to improve that as well. So
yeah. There could also be an element of not applying for the right jobs or the right company, because I think if you do go to a company which has the same values and culture that you're looking for, you potentially are going to do a little bit better in the interview, because you obviously resonate with the person that sat in front of you. And the interview would then probably turn into more of a conversation where you then do much better, possibly. I'm not saying that's the absolute answer. But I think there is an element where if you are applying for the right places, and this probably boils down again to targeting 2 or 3 jobs rather than 100 jobs. Sure. So, I mean, if you're getting interviews, that's a great thing.
Yes.
Because there's lots of people out there not getting interviews. So obviously your CV is great, but it's about getting that feedback from those interviews.
Yes. Yeah.
And that will massively help you improve.
Yeah. I could just add a point about preparation, because it's quite common to hear people say I'm no good at interviewing, and I'm nervous and I don't give the right answers. But most of your success in an interview is done before you even get into the interview. Your preparation, understanding about that employer, if you can get into the venue and experience a little bit, understand about who's working in there, who the customers are, having a look at them on their social feeds. All of this advice is in all the videos in the hub. This is not my advice, by the way. This is I'm repeating the advice of the people on the hub.
If I should have said.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's all about sort of that preparation time. And Marcus, I know you've got a lot to say about how to prepare for.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
As much as in the interview.
Yeah, there's so much preparation you can do. It's like we were talking about the internet. There's so much information on there. It's not about just going onto the company's website. You know, go onto TripAdvisor, go onto Glassdoor. You know, get feedback from the actual people that are working within the business. You know, get onto Propel or Big Hospitality and get newsletters from companies. From them, so they're actually providing you up-to-date information on what's going on. Follow their social media feeds, like Kathy says. You know, the more information you can go into an interview with, and they ask the question, it's an old question you get asked, what do you know about the business? Or the horrible question, which is, why do you want to work for us? You know, you can answer confidently because you've got all that information in front of you. You've read it, you've gone through it. You can be really passionate about why you want to go and work for a company. You can demonstrate to them, or that maybe they do charity stuff, or they're into sustainability, and you can hopefully match what's on your CV to that information as well. I mean, there's so much preparation you can do. It's beyond that. It's not just that. It's beyond that.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. And we've got a question saying, how much should I chase an employer when I've applied for a role and not heard anything?
I don't know if I should say, they might hate me if I say this.
I suppose an agency as well, I guess. Yeah,
I mean, it's not just the employers, it's recruitment companies as well. There's the old story of ghosting, you know, where it happens more so with agencies than it does probably with employers. Probably does happen with employers. I hear much more about with agencies. And I think if it's an agency, that they should be coming back to you with feedback on an interview for sure. If you haven't received any feedback from a CV, I'd wait till a week. Let's say 4 days to a week before we actually get in contact. Say, I've sent an application through. I just wanted to see how my application is going. Is there a possibility that I might get called in for an interview? Or if you've had the interview and you want to get feedback, do something quite similar 3 or 4 days after, saying, sorry, I haven't heard anything. Was there any feedback from my interview?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Lots of pleases and thank yous. Be nice. They're very busy. They're getting lots of applications, so it's possible that they're not able to get back to absolutely everybody as quickly as they'd want to.
Yes. And I had a question about using a recruitment agency. How many should I sign up with? What's the is there a magic number? Is there
one?
One good
no, I have no idea. I think this is one of those things where you have to do what you feel you need to do, and there's obviously, depending on the job role you're in, there are specialists out there that do specialist recruitment in whether that's sales, whether that's restaurant management, whether that's chefs, for example. And it's possible to sign up to 2 or 3 different agencies, I guess. You know, they all have different clients, so you don't want to just go with one.
Yeah.
You know, and unless you feel very, very confident that person is going to actually secure you a job quickly. But it's worth doing more than one, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. Lovely. Thank you. So we've got time for maybe one more question. But while we wait for one more question to come in, what's the last piece of advice you'd give to the most important piece of advice you could give to somebody who's job seeking?
I'm really into using my network at the moment. So, you know, there's so many people out there currently that are willing to help you, and you may not necessarily know that. And I know there's lots of people struggling at the moment, but I'd say absolutely reach out to people in your network that potentially can help you with your CV, can help you feel much more happier, can give you feedback and help you with your profile. You may not have written a CV before, and you may know someone that has written a CV before. You may know somebody in your network that has possibly got a job. And rather than looking out for the job on whatever website or social media, there's possibilities that your network has jobs in there already.
Yes.
And or they're preparing to open up sites in the new year. So yeah, your network is massive. And if it's not, start getting it bigger.
Start getting it bigger. So we're working with stuff like LinkedIn, and because LinkedIn was the original recruitment site, wasn't it? That was that was its original application. Really was for job seeking and job fulfillment. Thank you. How do you, sort of from a future point of view, what are your predictions for the future from where you sit?
Tough. Not saying it will be tough, but I think it's a tough question, because I don't think anybody knows that answer. And even as my business, I kind of think, okay, we're kind of looking. Let's say we think the vaccine's coming. We're looking kind of February, March time. Things are going to pick up. That's the way I see it. And if that's the case, then we should start seeing a lot more jobs around that time. Getting prepared for beyond March. Maybe I'm being optimistic, but that's what I'd like to think. And I think if we kind of go with that approach and thinking that things are going to change, then we can start to get prepared for that.
Yeah, I agree.
I could be massively wrong, but that's what my target is. And until that time, it's about doing as much as we can to help people. Get prepared for that time.
So I think we're the last piece of advice is to use the hub, use the networks that are out there, use the LinkedIn as a network, but also using the job seeking network, caterer.com and CareerScope, all of those, just really getting active with those. And reach out to help, and both Marcus and I are making direct offers. If there's anyone out there who wants a bit of help, bit of a lift, get in touch with us. We're very, very happy to help.
See my smile.
Sorry,
everyone can come and see my smile. I'll cheer them up.
You've been amazing. You've given away so much. I know how much you've done and how much you've contributed. It's great that you're getting some success stories as well, and packets of fig rolls and things through the post, and bottles of rum.
Bottles. Oh, you saw the bottles of rum. I've got another one on the way as well.
Good. Well,
I don't ask it. People just read my profile.
That's great.
And I loved it, because we were talking to someone the other day, and I'm not sure if we've got time for this, but I was talking to someone the other day, and we talk about reading people's profiles and doing research. And they commented at the end of their introduction to themselves, to me, and they said, "Oh, if you can help me, I'll get you a packet of fig rolls." And I thought, oh my God, someone's actually done the research and gone that far to read my whole profile. I was taken back. I thought, wow, that's amazing. Someone's actually done that.
Yeah.
And it's a great example of what people can potentially be doing to impress someone that little bit more. Fig rolls. I mean, how much do you think that's going to impress somebody? I was really impressed.
The funny thing is, we do it for guests. We build up those guest profiles naturally as hospitality people. We have the technology and the means to do that, to build up the guest profile. So to build up your interviewer profile, or to build up the company profile, all of those things, the stuff we do naturally. So just use it in a different, deploy it in a different way.
But such a small thing made such a difference. And I automatically wanted to pick up the phone and speak to the person. Yeah,
brilliant. Well, you deserve a lifetime of free fig rolls for all you. Thank you very much. And Kathy, thank you too for your tour of caterer. The Career Advice Hub. I think it's great. I love it. I've been on it and using it, and
well, you're in it. That's the thing. You're featured within it. Thank you. It's been good to talk it through. And if anybody on the call or listening to this afterwards feels that there's advice that they need that isn't covered in the hub, just contact me and we will create some content to answer that question for you.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you both very much.
Thank you, Hilary. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for attending. Hope it has been useful, and give us some feedback, and we might even be tempted to do it again. So thank you. Thank you for attending. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.